All right, I've been given the go-ahead to go ahead and start. So, hello everyone, and welcome to PCloudy's webinar on how to build your test suite with Agentic AI in just hours, a hands-on session. Right, my name is Dinakar, and I'll be the host for today. Before we get started, I would like to go over a few housekeeping rules. You may have noticed that your line is currently muted. But like I mentioned earlier, if you do have any questions, you can submit them in the Q&A option available. We will answer your questions as part of the Q&A section. We have a dedicated time slot for that towards the end of the webinar. So keep those questions coming, and if we do have time to take them, we'll definitely answer them online. Else we'll answer them offline. And also, please note that this webinar is being recorded, and we'll send out the link of the recording to share with your colleagues or to watch it again. So with that said, let me introduce the speakers for today. We've got Jessica. So Jessica is a test evangelist at PCloudy. She has around 4+ years of experience in the IT industry. Prior to her role here at PCloudy, she has worked with LTI Mindtree as a pre-sales consultant. She used to design automation solution design for various industries, and she has a keen expertise in data analytics and various automation tools. So without further ado, let me go ahead and kickstart. We'll do things a bit differently today. I'll start off the webinar by doing a few slides, and then I'll hand it to our speaker, Jessica. So I'll call her out, and we'll go from there. Right. So just as we start, there are different things. When we talk about test suites, right? When we talk about test suites, we're really talking about the foundation of quality assurance, right? Test suites are not just a checklist; they're what keeps the product stable as it grows. For example, a solid test suite ensures that your core features don't break. They make it regression proof. It also acts as a live documentation. So when you have a good test suite, it reduces the manual load of your retention on testers. The retesting efforts that the testers have to take, it kind of reduces that. So the manual load of your testers is reduced. It also enables true continuous integration, allowing you to deploy your releases with confidence. And more importantly, your test suite acts as a protective mechanism during your releases. It provides a safety net for catching issues before they even hit production. Right, so that's some of the key roles that we kind of discussed when we're talking about a test suite. Now, when we look at what makes a good test suite, firstly, we must remember. Okay, great. Firstly, we must remember that it covers the critical user journeys that you have to kind of monitor the things their customers will actually rely on. And second, it should be low on maintenance. If your team is constantly fixing broken tests, then it's a liability. It's not an asset. It's not going to be helpful in the long run. Right? So a good test suite should be low on maintenance without having your team to go back and constantly fix tests there. Third one is, clarity is key. Each step should be, easily understandable, something that you can reuse later on, especially when you have multiple teams involved and multiple projects where you have a cross-section of teams working on different projects. So when you build a test suite, make sure that it's having some clarity so that you can go back to and reuse some of those scripts. Right? A test suite should also, be stable across environments. It shouldn't be that it just passes in the staging environment and then fails in the production environment. But for any reason, it should kind of be stable across environments, so that you've got no noise but just signal, right? And finally, a good test suite is easy to grow. Something that you want to refactor, something that you want to reuse, that you want to add on and reorganize without starting from scratch all the time. So with that, let's quickly go and look at a poll. We've looked at what makes a good test suite. We've looked at, how to make a good test suite. And here's a quick poll that, to understand the kind of audience that we have here. So I mean, if you have the poll questions, you can display them. All right. So go ahead and start filling up the poll. The question is, are you spending more time writing tests than actually executing the tests? I'm going to keep that open for some more time. We have a lot of votes coming in. Mostly a yes, and sometimes I'm going to give it 30 more seconds for you all to fill up that poll. Are you spending more time writing the tests than actually executing it? That's the question you're polling for. Okay. I can see the sometimes moving a lot more, but I mean, I'm going to wait a few more seconds for you to close in your votes. Okay, wow, okay. Okay, it's surprising to see that nobody has a no there. So it's either sometimes and okay, I can see that. So, I mean, if you're able to see the percentages on display, you can see that mostly, 61% of the crowd that's here is saying, you spend a lot of time writing tests than actually, executing the test. So sometimes you kind of do that, and yeses are a bit on the yeses are a significant percentage as well. So 40%, close to 40%, is saying yes, they spend a lot of time writing tests than actually testing it. So let's see what we have to learn today. So with that, let me hand it to our speaker Jessica Selvin, who will take the presentation on. So over to you, Jessica.
Thank you so much, Dinakar, for setting the context and giving us an idea about the importance and the characteristics of test suites, as well as making it interactive with this poll. So with that context, let's just look into some of the other current approaches that we see with automation today, right? And as testers, you might already be aware of this, but just to give you an idea, right? Like, firstly, what we do is we gather requirements, be it testers or automation engineers. They gather the requirements, be it from multiple sources, maybe user stories, PRDs, from the manual test cases. And this step would typically involve quite a bit of back and forth between, your devs, business analysts, or product owners, right? And next comes the task of the test script creation, right? So be it whichever framework that you're automating in, be it Selenium, APM, Playwright, right? And this again is done step by step, manually, and can be time consuming, right? As was attested by the poll. And next comes the verification and the validation of the tests. So maybe debugging the locators, adjusting wait times, fixing test data issues. This itself can be a pretty highly time-consuming task. And finally, our test execution, where we maybe execute it locally first and then push it to the CI/CD for your broader regression runs, right? So for example, in a real world scenario, it would be, say you're testing the login feature for a banking app using APM. You'd first read through the user story and or the Figma to understand what are the login conditions. Then you would manually write the APM or the Selenium test with the locators, do an inspect, identify the locators, see which is the best fit locator in order to incorporate in your script. Right, and maybe you might face some flakiness due to any OTP scenarios or complex scenarios or edge cases. And then finally, you run it on your devices and log the results, right? So this is the current state of script writing that's happening. That is the process. Now we're going to look at some of the challenging realities that is very much part of the day in, day out of testing, right? So beyond the process, right, what are some of the real challenges that is seen? Firstly, it is time consuming, right? Writing even one good end-to-end test scenario can take hours, especially if you're building for scale. If you're building for cross-platform scenarios, it can take a huge amount of time. Next, automation scripts can be fragile, right? So tests break with UI changes. There could be some dynamic locators, asynchronous waits, or just a change in the text, right? And sometimes even following certain best practices, flakiness can happen in your test cases, right? And next is the manual testing lacks coverage, right? So manual QA can often miss edge cases, not because testers aren't good, but simply because the scope is simply too wide and time is limited, particularly with the agile framework of sprints releasing new features, on a weekly, sometimes daily basis, even, right? And next, maintenance can eat up the velocity, right? Regression cycles can become a bottleneck, and you end up fixing tests more than writing new ones, and automation can become a burden of itself, right? And this keeps your test debt growing. So new features keep coming in, but the automation can't keep up, and teams are pushing it to the next sprint, and that's how your test debt can keep piling up, right? So these are some of the realities that is seen, in script creation for testing. And in addition to that, right, what are the challenges in applying or implementing test automation, right? So as I mentioned, in the agile framework, the product keeps changing, specifications keep changing mid-sprint, and test cases, new features are added, right? And some test cases can become obsolete pretty quickly, right? And secondly, lack of qualified resources, be it in terms of time, skills, right? It's not just about knowing a tool. You need to understand the product, the frameworks, the data flows, right? So it requires a lot of diverse skills and resources, which could be also a limiting challenge, right? And next is difficult to integrate with other tools. So there might be some legacy tools, isolated CI/CD pipelines without test orchestration that has an end-to-end flow, right? Or lack of integration with your Jira, your test management. This can also, ensure that certain test cases and certain checks fall through the cracks. And next is there are no right processes or methods. So there could be a lack of scope understanding, ownership, strategy, which ensures that which can lead to just partial coverage of your test, right, of your product. And finally, test data and environment challenges. So a test case can fail not just because of bad scripts, but maybe test data issues, or the wrong user state, or test environments that aren't aligned with production, right? So what we can conclude here is some of the true blockers in script automation scripting are not just technical. They're human, they're process related, and they're ecosystem and environment related as well, right? So all these things can play a factor in how you are, applying test automation in your day-to-day. And some of the other challenges that we see is, firstly, it's automation can sometimes become slow to scale up. Right? You can start with a few automation test cases, it feels manageable, but as your app grows, the test scripts, it's very difficult to scale up fast, right? Especially sometimes with limited number of team members, right? So it's difficult to scale up at times. Next, there is a high maintenance time and efforts that are required, right? So tests break not just because the features are broken, but sometimes the scripts itself can be brittle. There can be any UI change or ID change that can cause this, right? And someone might have to manually test this, and then maintenance becomes like a full-time job, right? And human error can always happen in the loop, right? Which also has to be taken into account. And as I mentioned, there can be brittle UI changes. Test scripts are tightly coupled to the UI structure. So if the devs change anything in the DOM, then the script itself can collapse, right? And because of all of this, there is a lack of time in order to ensure full test coverage, right? And edge cases, negative flows, and boundary conditions are often left out, right, limiting the test coverage. But there is a shift that is happening in the quality engineering, right? Some of the shifts and trends that we see, right? So firstly, from manual heavy to intelligence assisted. So some of the old way could have been manual testers would execute test cases one by one, log the results in Excel or Jira, and then write the reports manually. Now what's happening is AI tools assist the testers in auto-generating the test cases, auto-filling test data, validating results, and even suggesting edge test cases. And these systems can learn from past behavior and help guide decisions, and they become like co-pilots. Next, from scripting to agent guided flows, right? So the old way was maybe writing each step-by-step automation scripts line by line in using Java or Python, JavaScript, with the framework, right, like Selenium or APM, right? And now what happens is, and now the trends that and the shift that is happening right now is that agentic platforms ask you to describe the scenario in natural language, and then they are firstly able to understand the goal, identify the UI elements, generate a test flow, and also handle scenarios like wait times, clicks, selecting from drop-down toggles, inputting data, as well as validations and assertions, right? Next, from static testing plans to adaptive coverage. So the old way might have been you write a fixed test plan and with predefined test cases and exit sprint, right? And now what we are seeing is test coverage is to adapt dynamically to code changes, recent bugs, as well as journeys from the production logs, right? Fourthly, from automation tools to orchestration agents, right? So having to coordinate between your CI/CD, your environment, maybe your cloud setup, and then your test runs, or your local device setup, wherever you're executing your test cases, right? And then handling reporting maybe in a separate tool, right? All these are disjointed, fragmented tools to now orchestration agents, right? Which are able to where you're able to generate your test cases, then select the test cases, test suites, set up the test data, and then trigger the runs across your cloud platform, right? And retry, maybe regenerate the failed test cases, auto send reports or log bugs in for failed test cases, and get the full-fledged automation reports. Entire flow and orchestration agents are coming into play here. And finally, from backlog to real-time execution, right? So test cases are always behind, where devs are finishing a feature and testing lags by by 1 to 2 sprints, and that's how test debt happens. But now what we're seeing is as soon as the user story is created or a UI screen is updated, agentic AI is able to create test cases, execute them on staging, validate results, and push issues into backlog or resolve them if it's fixed. So all this is happening even before maybe the app comes into the testing stage itself, right? So these are some of the key shifts that are happening and that are observed in QA. So yeah, that is the big message that we're driving at here, is to adopt agentic AI, and that is the trend, that's the future that we all need to jump into and adapt ourselves into, right? So to see the journey and how it has happened, right? So firstly, how testing started manually with Excel reports, with manual test cases, writing everything by hand, tracking the defects in Excel sheets. It's a working system, but it's completely, impractical to scale. Right. Next is the waterfall methodology, where testing came last after the full development of the build, after UAT, right? And the issues were found late, which generally does incur a higher cost, right? And testing can be slow, it's reactive rather than proactive. And then the age of test automation, where Selenium came, your APM scripts, right, where we began automation test cases and regression testing, but it still required scripting skills and high maintenance, especially when, when Agile and CI/CD came into the picture, right? Testing shifted left, and automation had to keep up really fast with the weekly releases, and even daily releases at times, right? And AI-driven testing is something we started seeing in the recent past with AI augment testing, like auto-identifying elements, classifying failures, or suggesting test cases, right? And now, in today's age, it's not the future, it's already here, right? We are entering into the era of AI agents. These are intelligent systems that don't just assist, they plan, create, and run, analyze, and even self-heal your tests. So it's no longer just automation, it's autonomy, right? Where there is still, of course, human intervention, but there is an end-to-end autonomous flow that's able to take care right from your test generation, execution, and results. So yeah, again, driving home the point that AI agents are here to stay and will lead the way in autonomous testing. So what are AI agents, right? Define it. It is a software component that has the agency to act on behalf of a user or a system to perform tasks. So in simple terms, it is goal-oriented. So it is not just a simple, what you might think with generative AI. It has a goal-oriented nature where it's able to perform the task, right, and accomplish it, and not just respond to a prompt. So just taking a step back from AI to introduce PCloudy at this point, and how our AI agent is fitting into the whole end-to-end testing scenario, right? As I mentioned, right, orchestration is coming into the picture, where we don't just have fragmented tools, right? We need to incorporate it into the larger framework of how testing works, right? So with that, introducing PCloudy, our AI-powered digital experience testing platform. Right? And the core of our platform is our diverse device coverage, where we have thousands of devices and browsers combinations, right? Real devices that are hosted in our data centers, right? Physical devices that are hosted across in multiple locations in geographical locations. And we also support custom devices. We have several deployment options of on-premise, lab in a box, which is a quick to set up on-premise option, as well as private cloud, which is exclusive set of cloud devices for you to test with, and our public cloud, right, which is a shareable platform with a vast range of devices. And the first layer of our solution is our functional experience testing, where be it you can simply connect to a device of your choice, install your developer builds, right, and go ahead and begin your validations, your manual testing, as well as your automation testing, right? So we support integration with your traditional automation frameworks as well, right? So all your existing APM, Selenium, Playwright, and typically any other popular automation framework out there, right? We pretty much integrate with that, and you'll be able to execute that on our platform and generate results. So that is something that we support along with specialized features. Next, another interesting space that we have moved into is our performance experience testing module, where we are tracking the digital experience of the users, right? So we track 60 plus metrics at the UI level, at the individual app level, and user level. And we're tracking the backend metrics like the network and API calls that happen behind the scenes, right, as well as your different performance metrics like your CPU, memory, battery, right? So 60 plus metrics in a comprehensive dashboard visualizations with drill downs, and you'll be able to analyze the digital experience of your application. And next, another space that we are moving into is synthetic monitoring, which is live monitoring of your production applications, right? And you'll be able to run your critical workflows 24/7 and get the performance insights, your anomalies and trends on it, right? And with all these solutions, our AI agents are driving it, right? And the most important one that we're going to be talking about today is our QPilot agent, which helps right from your test script generation, triggering your execution, and generating reports. All right. And then additionally, we also have self-healing and orchestration agents and observability agents in order to generate performance insights. So that is a brief overview on our entire platform. With this, we're going to be deep diving into QPilot, but if you're interested in any of these other features, right, or capabilities that we bring in, feel free to reach out to us. So yeah, introducing our AI agent QPilot. It is a platform agnostic autonomous AI agent, right? So it is a goal-driven AI workflow for performing testing tasks. So it works across your mobile apps, your web apps, right? We're technology agnostic, right? So different type of applications, your Flutter applications, your hybrid native apps, it works on that seamlessly. There are no additional prerequisites for any iOS-based applications. It is very much a platform agnostic AI agent, right? And how is it different from your Gen AI tools like ChatGPT? Gen AI responds to single prompts, but doesn't ensure goal completion. Here, with a specific goal, right, it plans out the workflow and executes the tasks autonomously, and it's specially designed for testing scenarios, right? So that is how we differentiate from your typical, generative AI agents. So how does the entire workflow happen with QPilot, right? So just to give you a bit of how the flow works, firstly, we start with a natural language input. It starts with plain English, right, not code. And the only inputs required is a natural language description of your test scenario. So, right, there are no keywords or a specific format in which you need to give this, as you will see in the demo. Next is the interpretation and reasoning, right? So QPilot uses NLP and AI reasoning to understand the intent and break it into test objectives and map them to UI elements, right? So for example, if you're specifying username field, it will go through the entire DOM structure, try to find the closest match to that and do the particular action, right? To identify the closest match to those UI elements. Next is the workflow generation, where it generates a full workflow script for that particular step, right? So it is going to fetch the XPaths, the locators, and try to see the best fit that script for that particular step, and post which it will execute it. So this workflow generation and execution happens in multiple iterations to ensure that the final result and the outcome that you see is highly accurate, right? So there is a lot of learning and course correction that happens behind the scenes during the phase of script generation. And finally, we get the output or the outcome, where you'll be able to see the fully generated, ready to run script, right? So you don't need to spend time debugging in, like you would see in typical other AI tools. There would be a lot of time spent in debugging the script, which would again require coding knowledge, right? So and is time consuming. So our scripts, once generated, are fully accurate and ready to run. And some of the tech that's happening behind the scenes with QPilot, right? As I mentioned, it uses agentic AI, and there are multiple agents that are happening, that are working behind the scenes in order to perform the task. Right. So firstly, it is the XPath or the locator generation agent, right, where it's responsible for finding the right way to identify the UI elements. So be it buttons, checkboxes, drop downs, input fields, right? It's trying to, it's responsible to see the right way to identify it, right? And how it works is, firstly, it passes through the HTML or the app's UI structure, the entire DOM structure, right? The hierarchy for mobile apps or your web apps. And it looks at the IDs, the names, the classes, right? And the text content positions, right? And it's able to choose the most stable and the reliable locator, right? And next, what it does is it's able to handle, avoid brittle locators and see the best fit locators, as well as have a fallback and a retry strategy. So if one locator fails at runtime, the agent can fall back to alternate locators to ensure that the script is more robust, right? And finally, the other agents that come into play are the code generation agent that goes ahead and generates the code, and the step execution agent that executes it step by step, And between these two agents is where the feedback mechanism happens, as I mentioned. And finally, if in case there's an error, also to give what is the exact error that happened, or what was the reason for the script failure, or script generation failure, right? So these are the different agents that are working behind the scenes. So with that context given, let's get into how QPilot works, and let's get into the live demo, right? So just give me a second to share my screen again. Yeah. So this platform that you see right here is our PCloudy platform, right? It's a SaaS-based platform, and it can be accessed very simply through registering and going ahead and beginning your usage, be it connecting to our devices and browsers, right? And as I'm demonstrating it on our public cloud platform, if you're interested in a trial or would like to know more about our entire platform, please feel free to reach out to us. So with that, I'm just going to go ahead and connect to first show our devices, and then we will go ahead and connect to our device to begin our script generation. So as you can see, and as I mentioned, right, these are all real devices, physical devices hosted across in our data centers, and you will be able to select from a vast range, right? So we have all the latest OS versions like Android 16, as well as the older versions. And similarly, on the iOS side, we have iOS 26, 18.5, and the older iOS versions. Similarly, we have all the different OEMs like Apple, Google, Samsung, and all the different popular OEMs. You can also filter out by screen size. We have SIM card enabled devices where a SIM is inserted to the device. So you'll also be able to do OTP-based verifications, SMS verifications, and so on. And as I mentioned, we have multiple geographical locations, several in India, as well as the US, Singapore, and the UAE. All right, so this is just to give you an idea of the level of device coverage that we have. With that, you can just simply connect to a device of your choice. So I'm just clicking on connect. As soon as you click on connect, the device session request is sent, and there will be a session established, right? That is exclusively available to you, right? So there is no session time limit as such to the amount of time you can have with the device. So now our session is established. It's pretty much like having a physical device in your hands. You can navigate it seamlessly. All right, and there's several features in the manual mode itself. If you're interested, you can reach out to us, right, where you'll be able to test for accessibility, logs, screenshots, network, location simulation, QR code scanning, biometrics, and so on, right? So we have several specialized features in the but our focus of the discussion is QPilot, so I'm going straight into the QPilot mode. So firstly, you will simply select the application from the dropdown, right? So yeah, I must mention this. Before you connect to the device, you simply upload your developer builds, your test data, right? Your APKs, your IP file into this section, right? And once you do that, you can again come back, connect to the device, and begin your testing. So I'm just selecting a sample banking app build. You can give the app package and the app activity name. You can tag it to a project and give a feature name, and then simply give the natural language description of your test case, right? So I just have a scenario here, which is again in clear natural language. I have, in case if you do not want to input static data, your username or password, you can add it as test data. So that's what I've done here, and you can give it in the format of, give it in JSON format. So the username, password, and name, or any other particular field that you don't want to hard code, you can put it in the JSON format, click on add test data. right? This is our natural language here, and once that's done, the description is given, you can go ahead and add it, right? Create a test suite, and I'm just going to give it as demo suite, give a test case name, and save it. Now, once that's done, we are ready to go ahead and generate our test case. So as soon as you click on generate, firstly, the app that we have given here will get fetched from the My Data section and installed into the device. Post which, what will happen is the AI models will kick in and try to go line by line and understand each every step. And as I mentioned, right, the XPath locator agent will come into play, go through the entire, it will pass through the entire DOM structure or the hierarchy of your application, right? And then it will analyze, see what is the best fit, action to be done or clicks to be done. All right. And I have just given a fairly short script here, but you can go ahead and give n number of lines. We do not have any limitation as such to the number of steps that can be for a particular test case, right? And you will see that some of the steps do take its time, right? On average, sometimes it may take between 5 to 15 seconds per step. And that is intentional in order to have higher accuracy of the script, right? So that there's a trade-off there, and we have chosen not to compromise on accuracy. So though the first time execution will take maybe a little more than 5 seconds, some will be much faster, right? But the advantage here is that you're going to see a higher accuracy in your scripts. You don't need to spend time debugging your scripts. So yeah, we are doing a simple flow of transfer in the sample banking app, right? And also, you can see I have added some validation steps. You can add validation steps. You can do slide to left actions. You can do click on device back buttons, wait time. You can also steps of like capture screenshots. So these are the different types of scenarios that you'll be able to, and test descriptions you'll be able to give for the AI model to understand. Right? And particularly mobile scenarios, we are a key differentiator where we are able to achieve some of those kind of test cases as well, like I mentioned, right? Like being slide to left or, clicking on buttons. And these are some of the some challenges that typical AI models would face where we are able to have the advantage. So our test case is fully generated now, and you can see that it's redirecting us to the QPilot dashboard. So let's get to the QPilot dashboard. And you'll be able to see all your test cases here in our QPilot dashboard, your web, your iOS, Android, all your test cases will be over here. So before we go ahead and execute the script that we've just now generated, let me create one more for web as well. So this is our browser infrastructure. We have our Windows and Mac machines. You can, similar to how I told you with the mobile, right? You can go ahead and connect to a browser machine, right? So again, a browser session will be launched, which will be exclusive for you, right? And that it will first be in the manual mode, post which you can click on the QPilot icon to enter into the QPilot mode, right? And for web test cases, you do not need to, you simply need to give the URL and then the subsequent test case description, and then you're good to go. Let's try another browser. So again, you can achieve cross-browser testing here, as you can see with multiple different browsers and different versions. So yeah, our browser is now connected. We can simply get into the QPilot mode. So, and then you can just simply give the URL that you want to test for. So I'm just giving the URL. You can tag it to a project, give a feature name, and then the test description, right? So I have a test description out here. So this is a pet food retail website, right, where we're going to do the action of adding an item to the cart. So I'm adding it to the same suite, right, and I'm giving a feature and test case name. Now we're ready to go ahead and generate our script. So the generation has started. Firstly, the URL will get launched in the browser. And as I mentioned, then the AI agents will kick in, where it will pass through the entire, DOM structure and hierarchy of your application, and then try to see the best fit match and what are the clicks to be done. So firstly, yeah, the first step is already done, post which it will subsequently, each step will first, the script is getting generated, and then as you can see, the execution is also happening to ensure that the script, that is the step that is generated, is accurate, right? So let's just wait for the workflow to be completed. Again, even for web, you'll be able to add test data. You can also add API steps in cases where you need to add any undeveloped feature, which is still in the form of a curl API, for example. You can, to perform that particular action, you can also add an API step, right? So these are some of the features that we have. So yeah, our script is almost done. Yeah. So you can see that in a matter of less than a minute, right, we've been able to generate a full workflow. Imagine the time that it would take in order to, say you're doing a Selenium script for this, right? You need to inspect the elements, see the best fit elements, and then generate the script, right? So this is a massive time save from what you can see, right? Again, it's redirecting us to the QPilot dashboard. So now we'll be able to see both the test cases that we have generated just in a matter of few minutes, right? So this is the power of QPilot, where you'll be able to now generate full suites, right? So these are the kind of test cases you'll be able to generate across your iOS. iOS works exactly like similar to how I showed you with Android. It works pretty much the same. So be it your Android, iOS, your web use cases, all of that can be will be visible here in your QPilot dashboard. So let's get into the execution part. You can, yeah. So let's first see how the script looks like, the generated script. You will have access to see the entire script, right? And as you can see, for every field, the corresponding XPath locators, multiple locators are also there, as I mentioned, with the fallback or the retry locator also being present, right? So you can see the script generation, and we also have options to generate in JavaScript as well as Python. Right? And you can also modify the environment. So say, for example, this particular script holds true for a new build as well, right? You don't need to generate all your test cases again. So for the older features or the existing features, you can simply go ahead and edit the test config, select the version 3 of the application maybe, right, and go ahead and do that. And similarly, you can modify the feature name, activity, package name as well if that changes in the new build, right? And then you can simply go ahead and click on run. You can also modify the test data here. So the test data is visible here. You can save new test data and run it for that, the other scenarios as well. You can run as an individual script, or you can add it to a collection and execute it as a test suite, right? So let's see how that happens. So all your test scenarios will be visible here, all the test cases that you have generated so far, and you can simply go ahead and insert all your test cases, right? So I'm selecting, say, some of the test cases we generated today, right, are one from Android and a web test case, as well as an iOS-based test cases, right? So I've inserted all of that, and then I can give a name to my collection, right? And give a name to the project. And then you can select the device range that you wanted to execute on. So say, for example, I wanted to execute on the Android test cases. So as you can see, we have an Android, web, and iOS. So we need to choose the corresponding devices to execute it, and it will execute it on PCloudy's device itself. So this is how, as you can see, it becomes an end-to-end automation solution for you, where you don't need to do a separate setup, right? Be it in terms of your frameworks or be it in terms of devices. All of that is available in a single platform here, right? So I'm choosing one Samsung device, and the other, maybe I want it to execute on a Google device. And you can also give the version range, right? So say, for example, between version 12 to 15. Similarly, on the iOS as well, I can give a version range, right? And I'm selecting a device. And then again, Mac, and I can select it for multiple browsers. I'm just giving one here, and then save it. So this is the all the collections that you have here, right? You can simply go ahead and click on run and trigger all the test suites here, right? So I'm just showing it to you for 3 test cases in the interest of time, but there is no limit here, right? So hundreds of test cases can be executed in a single shot, right? So there is no limit to the number of test case counts as such, right? And we also have a curl command, which you can paste to your CI/CD and execute the collections from your CI/CD tools as well. I'm going to go ahead and run it from PCloudy UI itself. So you can see that the collection execution has started, right? So the request has been sent. And as the sessions become live, it will get reflected in the live view session over here. Right, so it'll take maybe a couple of just a bit of time for it to start reflecting in the live view session. And as and when the device sessions are getting established, you will see the live happening here. So yeah, you can see already the browser automation has started. So these are the manual sessions that we connected in order to generate the test cases. But this one is the automation that we have just now selected. You can click on the live view in order to see the live execution happening as well. So you can see that the URL is getting launched and the automation is starting. And again, 2 other automation APM sessions have started, one for an iOS device and one for an Android device, and both are ongoing as well. We can go ahead and see the live view sessions for both. So you can see this automation is currently in progress. We can also see the one for Android, and we can see the one for iOS as well. Again, if you do not want to track via live view, you can also track it through our live reporting. We have our progressive reports here, where you'll be able to track all the automation runs. You can see that all the latest automation runs that have been picked up. So you can see this live view is currently happening in the Android and is also reflected in the live reporting. Similarly on the iOS as well. So let's just get into our PR reports. So this is the execution that's currently happening. You can see all the test cases that have passed, right? So the browser use case is already passed, and you'll be able to see the video of the entire session. You'll be able to see when was the last updation, the status of the test case, as well as the text logs, right? So you'll be able to see the output of each and every step. If you had enabled it for screenshots, or if there was any step that failed, there will be a screenshot also over here present to see what could have gone wrong. So that is something that you'll get with the browser reports. Also, these links are entirely shareable, so you can share it across teams. So the person need not have PCloudy access as such in order to, view the reports. Similarly, we also have, let me just pick up a mobile test case as well. So this has also passed. So you'll be able to see the video of the entire session, right, along with the text logs, the device APM logs, as well as the app profiling. Right, so this data might take a couple of more minutes in order to get populated, but it'll get populated eventually. And again, this is also can be shared across seamlessly. So this is how you'll be able to see the status of all your test cases, right? And you'll be able to easily track it, easily share it, and debug it as well with the APM logs, text logs, and the video, right? So this is something that's generated by default for every automation run. So I hope this gives you a clarity on how PCloudy and QPilot can give you that end-to-end autonomous testing journey for you, right from your test script generation to executing it seamlessly on your choice of devices and generating reports. So with that, we'll open it up for Q&A now, and we can take it up from there. So let's see. Yeah, I'm just looking at the questions. What happens when few things are changed on the app? Will the agent adapt the changes to the test suite? Yes, right. So firstly, we need to have a restructuring of how we think about this, right? So with the AI agent, it's just a matter of regenerating, right? As I mentioned, we have the test config option where you will be able to say your new build comes, which has maybe there might be some changes in the XPath or the locators, right? You simply click on generate again, and it will again go pass through the entire application, and it will populate it again with the updated locators, right? So you don't need to do that inspecting. You don't need to manually change the script, right? It will simply go ahead and fix it by regenerating the script. Can we integrate this with our existing CI/CD pipelines or test scripts? So we do have an option to copy paste the script. You can copy paste the script onto your existing frameworks, but you might have to do some changes here and there, right? It may not be as seamless when from doing it end to end with PCloudy itself, but yeah, by and large, the test script will remain same. The XPath, locator information, all of that will be there intact, right? So you can reuse the script in your own framework. Test description, I missed any steps. Does AI give any information on this? Okay, I think the question you're trying to ask is if there's any incomplete test description, right? So yes, eventually that's where AI will go into, where you simply give a high-level description and it's able to go ahead and generate the scenarios, being able to intuitively do the actions. But as of now, we do it step by step in order to ensure accuracy. So there might be many AI agents out there that are promising, with a single line it'll generate everything. But the reality is that as of now, it still does. That will compromise heavily on accuracy, right? So right now we do it step by step. But eventually, yes, that's where QPilot will be heading to, where we'll be able to, it'll pick up on missed information as well. But as of now, yes, even if there are, say, for example, you make spelling errors or you do not give the complete name of a particular object, it does have the intuition in order to click on the best fit, right? So you don't need to, in case of spelling errors or partial description of a particular field name, right? It will still be able to adapt and do those particular clicks. Will this work with edge cases or only standard flows, right? Yeah, I mean, let's have a discussion on it. There might be some cases where, we might need to look into what is the exact test case about. But QPilot has been able to handle some of the complicated flows as well, right? Like recently, we've been able to achieve it on more complicated applications as well. So please let us know your use cases. We'd be happy to work with you in order to come to a solution. What is the learning curve to adopt this approach? Yeah, so I mean, that depends, right? So if you already have your existing frameworks, we are not saying to dismantle that. That is not the solution. It will work in tandem with the automation frameworks that you already have in place, right? So as I mentioned, you can copy paste and use that to your existing scripts. And in our roadmap, we do have a solution where you will be able to select the framework. So for example, if you're using Playwright or if you're using APM, you can select that particular framework and generate it exactly to that so that you can reuse it within your own frameworks as well. How do PCloudy applications execute applications that are hosted locally? Yes. So we have a feature called WildNet. So even if your application is accessible only within your firewall, right? Um, Even in those cases, it will be able to go ahead, and we have a WildNet feature where through tunneling, you will be able to go ahead and access those local applications. Several of our enterprise customers are using this feature. Right, this is something that we provide as a very basic feature, and most of our enterprise customers are using this, right? So that should not be an issue at all, right? It's just a matter of configuring the WildNet, and you are good to go to test your local applications. We also have detailed documentation on this, or you can just simply reach out to us, and we'll be happy to give you a demo on this. Is QPilot a usage of MCPs? I need to look into this. I'm not sure as of now, but I would need to look into this and check with the product team on it. I think we're good with most of the questions. If there are any questions that I missed, you can maybe raise your hand or ping it again, but I think we're good with most of the questions. So with that, I hand it over to Dinakar. Yeah.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much, Jessica. I mean, thank you for sharing your wisdom in the field of, test suites and agentic AI. You're doing the deep dive into building test suites with AI agents and showing us how AI agents can assist with building these reusable test suites. So thank you. We also want to thank each one of our participants. You've been a great engaging bunch. So we want to thank you for joining the webinar and keeping it very engaging with your questions. And it shows that you are listening very keenly and looking at all the things that were being displayed here. And we're sure that some of the insights that were shared by Jessica may have sparked a few ideas to think through and implement. My recommendation would be to mull over these ideas, talk to your teams, reach out to us if you'd like to discuss further, and let's keep the conversation going. And also, please feel free to reach out to us with any questions. We've got our email ID as info@pcloudy.com or support@pcloudy.com, or you can even click on the chat option on our website, www.pcloudy.com. Just go in there and hit the chat icon, and you'll be directed to somebody, and your questions will be answered from there as well. Or you could reach out to us on LinkedIn. You can reach out to us on our handles. Our names are, we've got Jessica Selvin, and I'm Dinakar Rayapudi. And you'll find us on our LinkedIn page as well, on PCloudy's LinkedIn page. So if you're not following us, do give us a like and a follow there. You always have the recording. We'll shoot out a recording of this webinar over email, and you can reach out to us by responding to that email as well. So thank you so much thank you everyone for being such a great bunch. Thank you once again for being an engaging audience, and happy testing.
Thank you.